In a world dominated by sports podcasts, three friends team up to bring you another one. Driven by the incessant need to argue with one another, the Context Matters podcast will toe the line between what they believe and what they believe will piss off their friend. Listen and enjoy as the group chat you never wanted to read becomes the podcast you hardly want to listen to. The bits are long, the rage bait is real, and the context matters.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us on episode 9. Like the number of planets we used to have before the nerds took our beloved Pluto away from us. It's Monday, March 2nd. I'm Bill. With me, as always, are David and J-Mo. How are we feeling, boys?
I am exhausted. I just got back from Florida this morning, and I'm not going to lie, I am a little tired, a little cranky. That's what happens when you get to my age, but send it. Let's go.
Yeah. I've been doing better, let's say. I wish we had the technology of the late 60s and early 70s so that way I can do this podcast appropriately, going back to the moon landing. But yeah, my laptop's not having this, so it's a battle. I hate technology. I hate everything. So let's power through this. Let's go.
Let's go, boys.
What a wonderful intro. Well, on today's slate, we will be talking wide receiver rankings part 2, and hopefully David can manage to stay with us throughout the entire segment this time. Then we will be talking hot topics from around the NFL, including the Combine, bringing back Master Debater, getting into conspiracies with David's Cooky Corner, and we end the show with a little segment called Anything Else, where we touch on, you guessed it, anything else. Well, first, a word from our presenting sponsor, Hyatt Trucks.
Are you tired of dealing with unreliable waste removal services, or worse, the weekly dump trip? Say hello to Hyatt Trucks Waste Removal, Southern New Hampshire's top choice for dependable disposal. Based in Milford, New Hampshire, they serve Hillsborough County and beyond, including Milford, Nashua, Bedford, Manchester, and Peterborough. They're a family-owned business with over 50 five-star Google reviews, are fully insured, and ready to handle any waste removal needs. They offer flexible roll-off dumpster rentals for any project, big or small, and are joining us just before your annual spring cleaning project. Hyatt offers comprehensive junk removal services, hauling away furniture, appliances, yard waste, and more. But let's talk about what can really make a difference in your week. Hyatt offers weekly curbside trash pickup to Milford, New Boston, Bedford, Jaffrey, Peterborough, New Ipswich, and surrounding towns beginning at just $40 a month. With provided barrels, options for recycling, and reliable pickups on time, every time. Ready to join the Hyatt Trucks family? Head to HIOTT-TRUX.com and sign up using code CONTEXT to let them know we sent you. Hyatt Trucks. You chuck it, we truck it, making waste removal simple and stress-free.
Thank you, JMO, for that. Another thing I want to add on this week, we are going to be welcoming email from you guys with suggestions, topics you want to hear us talk about, anything like that, takes that you guys want to maybe present to the show. So reach out to us at thecontextmatterspodcast@gmail.com. I will make sure to put that in the description of this podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else. Again, that's thecontextmatterspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, could we have found a longer email for everybody or what?
Hey, everything good's taken.
Fair.
Hey, so I had a friend totally cut us off real quick before I forget. He came over, he listens to the show, and he asked me, he was like, so why is Bill a Chargers fan? And I said, honestly, he liked Quentin Jammer in college, and he liked LT in college, and then they both got drafted to the Chargers. And he was like, oh, so he's a big college guy? And I said, no, not at all. So I was like, honestly, I think that's why. But maybe you just like the powder blues, I guess. That you got cool uniforms.
I mean, who doesn't?
So I also love the powder blues. No, so it was just, I think I saw like 3 college games. I mean, mind you, so this is back in 2000, 2001, since we're talking about LT and Quentin Jammer in college. So I was like 7 or 8. So I saw like 1 or 2 college games, and they both probably were just like had great games, which is not surprising out of Quentin Jammer and LT. So that is the origin story. But again, it's I wasn't a huge college fan back then, and I was more of a college fan back then than I am now. So yes, that's the origin story.
Nice.
Yeah.
So on that, JMO, what made you a Saints fan?
So same deal. I was very young watching some college games whenever we had family over. We always had something on the TV, and I watched Drew Brees play at Purdue in the late '90s. And I think
Charger.
his last year at yeah, last year at Purdue was 2000. Um, but it was one of those things. I remember my grandfather looking at the TV and being like, loving that guy because he was so accurate at only, I think he was listed at 6 feet tall, but I think he's really like 5'10". Um, so just like see him on his tippy toes trying to look over his offensive line and then, delivering an absolute dart to somebody. So that was one of those things that like it felt like an underdog story. And then when he got drafted to the Chargers, that's when I started watching the NFL. And kind of watching that team, obviously with LT and everybody else that they had, that defense, it was just really fun to watch. I'm like, oh, I think I really like watching the NFL. And then he gets traded to the Saints. And then that's when I really started watching at the NFL and following along and seeing Deuce McAllister and Marcus Colston and all those guys. And I was like, yeah, I love the NFL. I love this team. Like Marcus Colston, another guy who just like way outperformed what he was ever projected to do. So like more underdog stories with that. And then obviously the Saints just being as bad as they were for as long as they were. So I like a good underdog story. That's kind of what got me into it. And I've been a Saints fan ever since.
Good to know we're both Chargers fans. So David, what's the story?
Suck it.
What's the story behind you being a Patriots fan?
I think it's the same story for a lot of us. We're just born into this. We watch the Patriots, but I've been watching for a long time. I remember the game where Bledsoe got hurt and Brady came in and then slowly took over the role. And then I remember the Super Bowl run, the first one, and yeah, just been along the whole step. I still have my Tom Brady rookie card that I got when I was that young because I got a Clinton Portis
Nice.
one as well. So it kind of that's the age I was. I love those two guys. So yeah, I was just born into it, and when the team's winning, it's kind of hard to root against them.
True.
And then, like, on top of it, like, we have the Red Sox that did well, the Celtics that did, so it's
Yeah.
like the whole city was winning championships. So what they weren't like, I mean, yeah, they were the most dominant, but it wasn't like a single outlier in that aspect.
Yeah, sounds good. I was gonna make the tuck rule joke, but I don't know. I'm not on my game today apparently. But that was that was a brief aside. But let's get into what everybody's really here waiting for is David's opinion on Devonta Smith. So if you didn't listen last week, David lost some connection during that winter storm that we had last week, and it was when we were introing Devonta Smith. So Jeremiah and I talked about him. This is our consensus wide receiver rankings. Again, looking into 2026, thinking about wide receiver talent wise, not necessarily situation wise. And to set the table, Devonta Smith was our 22nd ranked wide receiver. I had him ranked all the way up at 9th. JMO had him at 25th, and David had him at 30th. So if you want to listen to Jeremiah and my take on him, go back to last week's podcast and listen. But David, what are your thoughts on Devonta Smith?
I mean, I do think he has a ton of potential. I don't think he's there yet. I don't know if he will be there yet. I think his flaws are like pretty major. He's really small in size. He's like 180 pounds. He's like 6 feet barely. Like he's pretty small to be a true one. And I looked at the stats earlier. He had what 120 targets and 78 catches or something like that. So that's only like I did the math. It was 68% of the time he caught the ball. That is pretty bad.
He has
So
a trash can throwing to him.
yeah, but I mean, you ranked him top 10. You're telling me a top 10 guy is like a D plus at catching, on average? That's and he
Yeah.
like barely
He's a
cracks
talent.
1,000
Just
yards.
don't put Jalen Hurts with him. Throw him with an actual competent quarterback. And also factor in there's another top 10 wide receiver on that team that is also taking away targets. Like, yes, I think he's a top 10 talented wide receiver. We talked about him a lot last week. I think he is an A+ deep threat, but he can also be a possession wide receiver. He has a lot of production out of big routes. He can be a screen guy, he can be a hitch guy. Like he's a great receiver stuck with a horrible quarterback.
He's
Yeah.
just so whittle. He's just a whittle boy.
He really is. I weigh more than him, and
He is. He's tiny.
it's crazy. But yeah,
He
if
is
you want to talk
tiny,
about
but
talent and all this, who we're going to talk about real soon, that's going to be my main argument. So keep
Oh, let's
that
get into it. I
posted.
can't wait. I can't wait.
okay. So with that, I think it's the next guy. So I mentioned when we were introing Mike Evans that there were some guys that I was like, holy crap, how did somebody rank that person that high? And this was one of them. So at 23, our consensus ranked 23, we have Tyreek Hill. I ranked him not in the top 32. Jay ranked him at 28th.
Mhm.
David ranked him at 6th. So we're talking about Devonta Smith being too tall or too small. Now we're talking about Tyreek Hill, who's 48 years old in NFL receiver terms, coming off a broken leg and half of his body, and he's another just small guy. Like, don't get me wrong, prime Tyreek Hill was a problem, especially for his pregnant girlfriend. But David, sixth.
Okay, when I did
Explain
this
yourself.
list, I said there were only 6 or 7 guys that have like Hall of Fame elite level talent. He fits into that. He has a nickname, the Cheetah. He got that because he's the fastest guy in the league. Okay, let's see what he looks like after this injury. So what, is he going to be like Devonta Smith fast because he's not going to be the fastest guy anymore? He's still explosive. Like, you guys are like him and Han, oh, JSN and Puka, they had such good seasons this year. Oh, it's like Tyreek Hill had MVP votes like 2 years ago with Tua. Like, what are we talking about? If he gets on the Chiefs again, like, I'm telling you,
He is happy birthday to that pregnant girlfriend beater. It's his birthday today.
okay. He's not a
He's
great
30,
person.
32 today.
Yeah.
So he's 32, coming off a crazy leg injury, and he already was showing signs. Granted, I will give you that. So I just played the argument for Devonta Smith of having Jalen Hurts throwing him the ball.
He's got a
When he had
trash can
Tua-
thrown to him.
I know he had Tua, but he'd already been showing signs of kind of diminishing, kind of losing some of that.
That's
And
no.
and now he's 32, coming off of a ridiculous injury. So
I think
6th. Like,
I think the
agree,
league-
prime Tyreek Hill is arguably one of the most talented wide receivers we've seen in the NFL, especially given his size for his production. But he's not prime Tyreek Hill anymore. It's not 2015.
I mean, it was like 2 years ago he got MVP votes. He had like 1,800 receiving yards a couple years ago. This last like full season he played 1,800. Dude, you were talking about like Jason Puka at like 1,400 being like all-time great seasons. Like, this dude blew him away by 400 yards, and it's like, oh yeah, just he's small. It's no big deal.
So here's the thing. With Tyreek Hill, and everybody knows that I'm a stats guy, so I'm going to go into some stats. In 2023, Tyreek Hill played 16 games. He had 171 targets, 119 catches in 1,800 yards with 13 touchdowns.
That's
phenomenal
insane.
season. And so it looked like he was going to do it forever. The problem is that 2024 came around the very next year. Tyreek Hill played 17 games in 2024. He played every single game. He didn't miss a single one. He had 123 targets, so he had 50 less targets, and he only had 959 yards. So he couldn't even break 1,000 yards with all 17 games played. And with that is where my problem lies. I think that he showed a great decline in 2024 that I don't think he can come back from, because when he started off in 2025, he only played 4 games in 2025. In 2025, he had 1 touchdown, and he was averaging 5 catches a game for 66 yards. I know some of it can be explained away with the quarterback play and the kind of like the or lack thereof. They changed the way that offense was running so that Tua might possibly live a life where he's not eating his food through a straw. Uh, so
Poor
I get
Tua.
that, but seeing Tyreek play that full 2024 season and being as unproductive as he was, and then yes, the injury was no joke. He had a dislocated knee, he had tore his ACL, and he tore other ligaments within his knee. So that's already a brutal injury to come back from. You add that in to the age, and then also the lack of production the last full season we saw from him. I just can't put him that high. I mean, the only reason that he's on my list at all is because of the slim chance he's able to come back and do what he used to be able to do. But I saw enough in 2024, and then you add in the other red flags, and I just don't see it happening ever again. It was a good run. I That's it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, and
the
I was
2024
just
to
gonna say,
Tua
go
play
ahead.
every game, or was that the season that he actually got knocked out and they had backups, third string backups playing quarterback the whole time? Because I'm pretty sure that was the season.
Yes, it was.
So I
It
mean,
was a good part of it.
he almost got 1,000 yards with a backup, and Devonta Smith has had barely can get 1,000 yards in 17 games. So what are we doing?
When Jalen Hurts throws for like 1,100
Oh,
yards on the
Tua
season,
throws for. I mean, you're comparing Jalen Hurts and Tua; they're in the same category. So
If Tyreek Hill is fast, like that's his thing. He's fast. I've never he'll make a couple catches here and there, but he's never done anything that wowed me other than being fast. And even a backup quarterback, like here's where you'd normally throw the ball. All right, throw it 7 yards farther then. Like he
yeah,
could have gotten the ball, he just didn't. So I don't know. I don't see it anymore,
but
unfortunately.
like his speed is another. Like, yeah, let's see what he comes back at. But I
Right.
mean,
at
you can't
32
double him.
off a crazy injury.
I mean,
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson came back a bunch of times with torn ACLs and this and that, and he played forever. Dude, these guys are like
Also
real.
very
Yeah, but
good at
Adrian Peterson
beating up
wasn't
people
just a speed
smaller than
back.
him. Yeah, he was an everything guy.
Yeah, but what helps
Also,
Tyreek is his twitch. He's always been like a high, fast twitch guy. So
which comes back great after a torn ACL and every other ligament in the knee. Like
yeah, but
Dislocated
it's
knee.
modern.
top six is just insane. Also, just since you were bringing up the Puka Nakua JSN argument, yes, we were giving them lots of props for their JSN went for 1793 this year. So
Yep.
it's like they were far off from 1800. You were saying like 1400. It's not. We weren't giving people props for 1400.
And they're
Almost
a
1800
decade
itself.
younger.
Yes.
Yeah, and slower and not as good.
Nah, you're
Usain
wrong. It's okay to
Bolt
be
will
wrong.
race all
People
those
are wrong
guys
every
but
day.
he won't touch Tyreek Hill. I wonder why. Probably
No,
the fastest guy
Tyreek
alive.
Tyreek's not it. He was the fastest guy. He's not there anymore, and we're gonna see it this year. Whatever team he plays for, it's gonna be a limited role. He's gonna quickly turn into Odell Beckham Jr.
I don't know. But you're telling me if he goes to the Chiefs or the Bills or like a pass heavy team that I don't know.
Yes.
It's gonna
But
be like Mike
that's-
Evans for
that's
me.
not
Like
And that's
until
not the
I
point of
don't
this
see
this
it.
list either.
Yeah,
It wasn't who might have decent production if they wind up in a good situation. It was who are the most talented wide receivers going into 2026.
yeah, which is why I think he's more talented than most of the league.
But he's 7,000 years old.
Gross.
Anyway, whatever. We're just repeating the same arguments now.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
We'll move on to 24. So our consensus number 24, who ironically is, I would say, one of the closest names to Tyreek Hill, and David didn't even rank him. So I had him ranked 16th. Jeremiah had him ranked 22nd, and David had him unranked. It is the new iteration of Tyreek in Kansas City, Rashee Rice. So also a absolute red flag of a human being who is a
Yep.
piece of trash, but another speedster. He's bigger than Tyreek. It's not exactly
Yeah,
a
he's not even
1-to-1.
close.
It's not exactly a 1-to-1, but he is another speedster wide receiver who is just about the only option in Kansas City, especially with Travis Swift contemplating retirement and or just being an awful tight end this year.
Yep. So I like Rashee. Like I said, so I think Rashee Rice is a better version of Zay Flowers. Like I said before, my biggest thing with Rashee Rice is that when he came into the league, he mainly operates in the same area of the field as Travis Kelce. And when he came in, Travis Kelce immediately took a decline. And I think that was because he was doing those things, but better. I think he's a PPR monster. He can always catch the ball, and he's looking to run after he catches the ball, and that's kind of his bread and butter. You're not really gonna catch him down the field, but his ability to sit in the soft spots of the defense and get the ball, or get the ball on the run and then do something with it, like, he's hard to tackle. He's hard to bring down. He takes good angles when he's trying to get away from defenders, and he's just really reliable. Like I said, on third down, catching the ball. He really doesn't have that many drops, so I that's why I like him more than Zay Flowers. Like I said, I think he does everything Zay Flowers does, just a little bit better. That's my whole thing with Rashi Rice.
Yeah, I didn't rank him because I don't see him as a one. So, like, if there's 32 starting teams, I don't see him being in the 32. I think your best ability is availability. And I mean, if you're getting suspended, you're getting hurt, you're just doing dumb stuff all the time, then yeah, you're not going to be really high on my list, anyways. And then talent wise, like, yeah, he's gifted, but it's just not. Last year was super disappointing if you really watched him because the talent's there, everything's there. It's like his brand of being a wide receiver isn't winning games for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that he does what he needs to do within that offense because they don't have a one. Xavier Worthy hasn't really been able to take the top off and do all the things he was supposed to do. But I think Rashi Rice could be that fringe one guy for most teams. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And in 8 games, he had 571 yards this year. So, and that's playing some of those games with uh, Minshew or whoever came in after Minshew got tore his ACL too.
Yeah.
So I think that's on a pace for well over 1,150 yards. So I do think he's a number one in this league. Like I had him ranked 16th. I see him a lot more than you guys do as a Chargers fan, and I think he is actually
Yep.
extremely underrated. But I guess I understand, like, he is, if availability is the best ability, he's probably going to be out there doing 180 on the freeway, running into the back of the car of the car in front of him. So I loved when Tony Jefferson absolutely slammed into the back of him when he was trying to catch a ball over the middle. So I've
Yep.
lost here, so I guess I don't care that you didn't rank him. But on to the next name, and it's another name that has connection with Tyreek Hill. It's his running mate in Miami the last few years. Jalen Waddle. So we have him ranked 25th consensus. I had him ranked 31st. JMO had him 21st. David had him 26th. So Jalen Waddle is just kind of your prototypical slot guy. He can also be a PPR monster if he gets peppered, if he's in an offense with a good enough quarterback, which obviously Miami hasn't had lately. But strong hands, good hands, and just I I had him ranked 31st, but if we're going by the true number one definition that you guys love so much, he should never be your team's number one receiver. He's a good 1B or high level 2 slot player, and that just might be me ranking slot players lower than most, but that's where I am with him.
I mean, I would agree, but I did see him play, like, especially when Tyreek was hurt and when in 2024, when he wasn't really performing like he was supposed to, he was playing the outside and playing it well. The the other difficult thing about Jalen Waddle is that yet again, he's a guy who's just always injured, or like, again, you're not going to see it in the box scores and whatever, but he plays injured all the time. He doesn't stop being injured. It's just at one or two times a game, you'll see him take a hit or whatever, limp off the field. He looks like he's dead and he's never coming back. And then he'll hop right back up. And then a couple drives later, he's out on the field and he's fine until he gets hit again. And it's so frustrating because from a talent perspective, I see him do all the right things. I think that I think he is better complementary than he is a number one, but he has the skill set to do it. And he's been fairly consistent when he's on the field and healthy. So I really like him as a wide receiver. My biggest gripe with him is literally just that, like, two things. Number one, he can't stay on the field, and then number two, he really doesn't demand the ball. I want him to be more of a diva wide receiver. He doesn't. There's nothing that he does that where he says give me the ball, and he doesn't give you any reason to do that. He's just reliable when you do. So that's a knock on him. I wish he was more of a diva, and I wish he was like gimme, 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 because I think with that volume would come some crazy outlier seasons.
Yeah. Obviously, I like Waddle a lot. He's extremely talented. He's been a beast since the college days. So, if you guys forget, I'm pretty sure he was the one with a broken leg and he rushed it back and played on it in Alabama's championship game. So,
Yep,
and he produced in that game. Like he's been that guy since then.
I don't care about college.
we
Yeah, but
know.
I mean, he was highly drafted. He was drafted in like Golden, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. Like really not overdrafted, but fairly drafted. And I think he's going to produce at a one now that he is the official one.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe somebody's gonna have to produce in Miami, and that's kind of another aspect interesting to bring up is sometimes people produce like a number one just because there's no other good option on that team. Um, but that's interesting. And speaking of Matthew Golden, no, we won't talk about him, at least not on this list. So maybe we'll talk about him as a combine superstar when we get to the hot topics. But just in case anyone's kind of marking that down for Chekhov's gun, trying to make sure that we talk about him again, we won't. Nobody ranked him in the top
Well,
52, but
how many Packers wide receivers are we going to talk about?
so that's an interesting thing that you bring up. So I was going to save this for the end just to put a nice little bow on it, but there are three teams that we didn't even represent with a single vote. So Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills, and Las Vegas Raiders, you officially don't have any single wide receiver that any of us would consider a a top 32 number one wide receiver in the NFL.
Oh,
Checks
I
out.
just thought about something, and that's going to be interesting when we get to it. All right, carry on.
Sounds good. Okay, so our next name is the other JMO. So Jamison Williams. So heading back to Detroit, just like Amon Ra. So his compliment. I didn't rank him in the top 32. Jeremiah, you ranked him 20th, and David ranked him 28th. I guess kind of victim to the discussion we had last week with David is I didn't rank him mainly because I don't see a lot of production out of him because he's in that high octane offense in Detroit, and often when he is getting production, it's because of broken plays because there's teams keying in on Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, like that whole complement, David Montgomery, that whole complement of weapons out there in Detroit that's viable. So I don't really see him as a top 32 wide receiver, but I do see him as a great number two.
Yeah, he for me he just puts up first of all like his speed and his athleticism is like unreal. So, you start with those fundamentals, which we'll obviously talk about. For some guys it matters more than others, but his playmaking ability is crazy. That's why they drafted him even though he was injured, because they're like, we don't care. When he gets back, he's going to be a force, and he definitely was. Looking last year, he had a stretch of games towards the end of the season starting in week 10. He had 119 receiving yards, 88 receiving yards. Then he was injured for a game, 144 receiving yards, 96 receiving yards, and 134 receiving yards all together in a little stretch. There's just not a lot of guys that can do that. Like his athleticism allows him to obviously beat the defense over the top, but he's also just like yes, he could do a deep crosser and get open in a soft spot and then definitely catch the ball and run with it after the ball. But he can also turn a 10-yard slant into a home run hitting play. And there's just not a lot of guys that can do the same thing. So for me, that's why I have him ranked so high, is that his big playability is really far and away better than a lot of other people in the NFL. And then you add on to the fact that like he can do it with limited touches or he can do it with a lot of touches. It doesn't really matter. He's consistent when he gets the ball. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning of the game or the end of the game. And his raw talent is going to keep him up and above these other names for me.
Yeah. He's a freak athlete. What I like the most about him is his first year, he didn't really play much. So now that he's in like the system more, which I guess it just changed, it's going to change again. But the chemistry is what kind of sticks out with him and Jared Goff. Now that they're developing this chemistry, he is going to get even better and better. He's not on a plateau or on a decline. He is improving very fast for the Detroit Lions.
Yep, definitely. And I mean, yeah, his, 2022, he didn't play a whole lot. 23, 24, 25, all of his stats are getting better and better every single year. He's getting more involved. And then, as we talked about before, on a team that has so many weapons with the running backs, with Sam Laporta, with a little bit of a breakout from Isaac Tesla, he's still going to be getting his. And I think he's going to be getting it more so than we've seen previously. So he's definitely a riser for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that he's a freak athlete. I just don't necessarily see him as a top 32 wide receiver yet. And partially that could just be a victim of his circumstances again in that offense. I think if we ever have a mystery episode of trying to determine some mysteries around the NFL, like I don't know, did Ray Lewis actually murder that guy? Another thing has to be why did we give Isaac Tesla the second A in his last name? I don't know why it has to be Tesla instead of Tesla,
True.
but that's probably an Ellis Island question. David, maybe that'll be part of your Cooky corner. But
Maybe one day.
our next name, ranked 27th, is DJ Moore. So we kind of touched on him last week. David saying that he ranked DJ Moore above. I can't remember exactly who
T.
it was. You
Higgins.
were saying you ranked DJ T Higgins. Um, uh, I didn't rank him in the
Gross.
top 32 at all. JMO ranked him at 32, and David ranked him 18th. So, David, I think I actually have two other Bears on this list for who I think is going to be the best going into 2026. So, I think it's interesting that you have DJ Moore that high,
It's
and
interesting,
love to hear why.
2 other Bears. He's clearly their one. He is the cog in that machine. What do you mean when they had needed to beat the Packers? Who made the play to win that game? Whenever they need to play, whenever they need a game, it's DJ Moore that does it. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't have this and that. It's just what my eyes tell me. There
Eye
was what
test.
last year he had a game where he had like over 200 something yards receiving. Like, dude, that's absurd. How many guys in the league can actually do that? And with
A full
Caleb Williams
game.
throwing him the ball too. So that's half the battle. I mean, he's getting better, but he's still not crazy efficient. And obviously DJ Moore has lapses where he gives up some plays, he gets mad, he gets frustrated. Yeah, he throws a little bit of hissy fit, which I don't love, but I think he's 18th. I think that's pretty fair to grade him there.
I I like DJ Moore. My biggest problem is that he's been in the NFL long enough now, um, 8 years now or something like that, where it's just like he was supposed to be so much better than he is. He had a really good year in Chicago with Justin Fields of all people. And that was like his best year to date. He had a little over 1,300 receiving yards. And I don't know, I just don't see it from him in the way that they've changed this offense over the last couple of years, not just last year with Ben Johnson coming in. He's just like I just see him as a screen guy now. Every time I watch a Bears game, it's like he's getting a wide receiver screen and trying to make something work with that, but they don't use him down the field anymore. And I think it's kind of like a player thing too, because I can only, blame the system for so long before I'm like, DJ Moore is not doing anything special. He's there, he's consistent, and he's just fine. So DJ Moore is just for me a perennial just okay wide receiver. Like he doesn't do anything special. He doesn't have those high end games like that 200-yard game. I don't think we're ever going to see something close to that ever again, especially not the way that they're using him now. And he is older, so I think his time has come and gone, and he didn't make enough with the opportunities that he was given. And I don't think he's going to randomly get better now. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I said that I had both other Bears ranked above him. So sure, he might have those flashes, like you said, David, but he's the only of the three Bears wide receivers that played in all 17 games. So
So
sure, good on you. You actually played in all 17 games. Like availability is the best ability, sure. But he had 21 more yards than Roma Dunze in 5 more games. And he had 30 more yards than Luther Burden in 2 more games. So I think saying he's clearly their number one is just an absolute travesty of the word number one. I think that offense spreads the ball around a lot, sure, but I think he is the third most talented wide receiver. And again, we're looking into 2026. I'm not looking at the career of Rome Odunze versus Luther Burden versus DJ Moore. And sorry that I just kind of blew what I was going to talk about with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. But I think they're both more talented than DJ Moore. And looking into 2026, I think they're both going to be better wide receivers than DJ Moore.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, they definitely spread the ball around a lot. Caleb Williams spreads it around so much, he'll even throw it to the defense quite a bit, so that's pretty good. Good for him.
Absolutely.
Yep.
On to the next name. So this is another interesting one. We have in 28th, we have Chris Godwin. So I did not rank him in my top 32. David did not rank him in his top 32. Jeremiah, you had him all the way up at 19th. So the
I
Mike
did.
Evans compliment of Chris Godwin. You see him twice a year as a Saints fan. Tell us what
Yep.
we're missing on Chris Godwin.
So with Chris Godwin, they figured out, when they finally and we're talking about a team that every single year has a new head coach, and it doesn't matter. I kind of almost feel bad for them, but like they had Liam Cohen, and obviously he's on the Jaguars now. They had him for 1 year, and like they keep cycling through these coaches, but it was the head coach, the now head coach of the Panthers, Dave
Canales?
Dave Canales. Thank you. Dave Canales finally was looking at Chris Godwin and was like, "Why are we putting this guy on the outside? We need to run him out of the slot." And when they ran him out of the slot, he was lethal. He was like through the first 8 weeks of the season, he was like that year, he was like the number one wide receiver in the NFL. And then same thing last year before he got hurt, he was running all these routes out of the slot and just like absolutely torching everybody. So his injury was a very minor, I believe it was an ACL tear, but it was like there was no extra ligament damage or anything like that. And beyond that, they extended his contract after he had surgery on the injury. So it's like he had the injury, he got his surgery, they drafted Emeka Egbuka, and then they still extended his contract. So that tells me that whatever, and he's a little bit older too. So that tells me whatever the doctors were looking at, they're not concerned about him coming back any worse necessarily, or at least the team's not, because they threw more money at him. So when he's healthy and used properly, I think that he is easily going to be the favorite target of Baker Mayfield on an offense that typically has been humming at a really high level for the last couple of years. So, and a lot of that's because of Chris Godwin. He's just a really tough, gritty player. He's always looking to get the first down. Similar to what I was saying about Devontae Adams, is that he always knows where he is on the field. And part of it is probably the bias of seeing him twice a year, but Chris Godwin is just like, he will tear apart a defense, similar to like how Julian Edelman would do it, where yeah, again, he would just find the holes and the gaps in the defense. But then when he has to go across the middle and make a tough play and get hit, he'll do that too. Like there's just nothing that he can't do. And I assume with the contract extension, I'm assuming his health. So with him being healthy, that's why I'm going to have him up there, because I still think that his prowess, his ability to make these plays is better than other people's.
So I'm going to turn into the JMO here. I'm looking at his stats. 9 years in the NFL, he has 4
Yep.
seasons where he's eclipsed 1,000 yards. 2 of them just barely, 1,023 and 1,024. Another one where he had 1,100 yards, just barely, 1,103. So, and that's with Tom Brady for a few of those years. I just don't see it. I think similar to kind of the Jalen Waddle argument, except maybe he's a little bit older, he's a little bit more injury prone. It's crazy to say because they're both so injury prone. And I think he's a little bit more on that decline. Like I just don't see Chris Godwin being a top 32 NFL wide receiver. I don't get it. David, am I missing something?
No. Everything you guys just told me about Tyreek Hill, you literally just said about Chris Godwin. He dislocated his foot off he can't scat about himself. like he's washed, and you had a year to see like what he looks like, and he looks. I can't swear, but he doesn't look good. Like he's slow. He looks like he lost a step. Like, yeah, he had a couple good games because Mike Evans is hurt. Like, who else are they going to throw to? And now next year, who else are they going to throw to? So it's unbelievable that, yeah, I heard a lot of was's and this, and like he used to, like, yeah, he used to be really good. He used to be able to torch
Yeah,
defenses. Those days are
I think
done. He is so
I
washed
th-
up right now.
That's fair.
yeah,
And he hurt
I
his
think this
like
is just
like his same leg. He keeps hurting like that whole thing he had going on. But yeah, he dislocated his foot from his ankle. So I am glad the
yeah.
Patriots, like, yeah, they tried to sign him. They overpaid to sign him, and he said no. That is actually a major win for New England.
Yeah, I think this is maybe just JMO having PTSD from
Yeah, well, he
the
said he was
Buccaneers
biased,
beating the
so
brakes off
It's
the
possible.
Saints. Yeah.
It's definitely
Okay.
possible.
Okay, so moving on to our next name. We have Brian Thomas Jr. in 29. So I ranked him 30th, JMO ranked him 29th, David ranked him 27th. So I think we're all seeing the same thing out of Brian Thomas Jr. I think we all think he's incredibly talented. He's young. He put it all together in his rookie season, put together a great rookie campaign. He can do everything on the field. He's a good doing everything wide receiver. But he was a bit of a do nothing wide receiver this year where he didn't show up when the Jaguars really needed a wide receiver to be a dominant wide receiver one. And we all know it took Jacoby Myers coming in and basically elevating or Trevor Lawrence elevating Jacoby Myers or vice versa for that offense to really start humming. And then you had some people saying Trevor Lawrence should have been in the MVP conversation after that 4 or 5 week stretch
Ew.
he had. That was wild. Yeah, I agree. But still, like it was impressive.
Yeah.
So just knowing that offense couldn't get going with Brian Thomas Jr. as the number one, uh, I think we all still see it. He's still young. He could still make it work. That's why we all still ranked him. But I think we're all justified ranking him as low as we did. So I don't know exactly what else we need to discuss on him. But guys, do you have any other points on BTJ?
Yeah, I just wish he gave us a reason as to why he played the way that he did. I mean, he played through some injuries, but nothing catastrophic, right? So, and it's not like his rapport with Trevor Lawrence was all that bad because Trevor Lawrence was giving him plenty of opportunities. He had a terrible case of the drops this year. Um, so I don't he just didn't give me a reason to explain it away. And I will be one of the first people to explain it away. And I just I don't know, he didn't seem into it. Whatever the jump was, like I was almost half expecting at the end of the season, you know how we always get those reports of like, oh, blah 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 was playing through a broken whatever. Like
Torn
I was
labrum.
expecting that. Yeah, I was expecting that, and we just didn't get it. So I don't, I don't know. He's an LSU guy. I'm an LSU fan. I love LSU, and he was playing with neighbors. He was playing with all these talented wide receivers, and so, he was kind of used to being second fiddle. And then his rookie year, he was like, that's it. Like, I'm the number one guy and I'm going to prove it. And then last year, it's like that went away. He had no urge to be number one. And like, I was a Parker Washington guy. I liked him. I got him in Dynasty this year before the season started. So seeing him take off was not necessarily surprising to me. But watching Jacoby Myers just step right in and make an immediate impact in a way Brian Thomas Jr. couldn't was like, okay, it's not the system. It's not too hard of an offense to understand. He wasn't that hurt. Like, there's just nothing really explaining it, and that's what kind of gives me the yuckies going into next year.
Yeah,
The Yuckies.
I mean, this is like based off of talent, so he's obviously the most talented guy in Jacksonville. I didn't watch
Yeah.
a whole lot of Jacksonville games, but I just lean it towards a new system, new coach, new this, new that, sophomore slump. I hope that's not the average. I hope he gets better than that. But I did read an article, side note, that he could be a potential trade bait. So that's pretty interesting to see if he is and where he could go. But if I were them, I'd keep him because you have him. So let's see what kind of potential you can get out of him because he is extremely talented.
For sure. Okay, so on to
Yep.
the next name. We have at 30th, we have the white George Pickens. It is Alec Pierce. So I didn't rank him, JMO didn't rank him, and David had him all the way up in 20th. So that's an interesting
I should have
position.
ranked him. I should have.
I
But
guess. I don't know. I think it's interesting because we're gonna get to his running mate later on in this
Mhm.
list. And you and I ranked his running mate and David didn't. So David seems to think awfully high on Alec Pierce without thinking awfully high on the guy who's lining up on the opposite side of the field of him, usually. But
Yep.
I said the white George Pickens, that's a callback to last week. Uh I don't think he's the white George Pickens. I think he is just a deep threat, and there are, like we talked about when we were talking about Josh Allen and the Bills, like we were talking about Joshua Palmer, right? Was the name that
Yep.
got put up. There are
Curtis Samuel.
30 there are 30 Alec Pierces in the league. They're just deep threat. Alec Pierce is probably one of the better of those 30, but I don't see anything special out of Alec Pierce.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think you just hate white guys. White receiver.
It's possible.
You're just biased against. Yeah, they're bad. They're unathletic. Smart, but um, there is a reason why I don't have the stats in front of me, the ones that I was using when I made the list, but there is a reason to why I chose him over the other half. He had a really good year last year. He was their only deep threat. He plays every game. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball, he's producing. And the Colts were the best team for most of the season before Daniel Jones got hurt, and he was their best other than Jonathan Taylor. He was their best like wide receiver though. So I think that says a lot about being a top 32 wideout is if your team's the best in the league and you're the best at a position group that we're ranking, you deserve to be in that spot.
All right. I mean, I didn't see enough out of him, but again, like, and I'm never going to see enough out of him because that's just not his role. His role is the deep shot, so he's not going to get 100 targets a year and whatever. But he made the most of his targets. Like Bill said, he's going to be if you get all of the Alec Pierce, he is the LeBron James of Rashid Shaheed's. Basically, is he is he is really, really good at the one thing that he does. So I'll give him
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I would love to see him wind up on the Chargers. So he's a free agent, and we have a quarterback who can frickin' sling the deep ball. So would I love to see it? Yes, but do I think he's a top 32 NFL wide receiver because of that? Absolutely not. Moving on to in 31st. So I was the only one who ranked this one, so I'll be on the hot seat this time. I had him ranked 21st. Neither of you ranked him. It's a Emeka Egbuka. So again, I'm gonna put a lot of weight on this is a list looking into 2026 as to who we're going to see as the most talented. When Tampa Bay was looking like one of the better teams in the league, when Baker was playing as well as he can, Emeka Egbuka was a problem. Emeka Egbuka was right there with JSN for the first half of this year as like one of the top receivers in the NFL. He fell off. He had a meteoric fall off, like
Yep.
insane. But he was a rookie. So you kind of like take the good with the bad as a rookie, and he had a case of the dropsies. But
Yep.
I would love to see a full campaign where the Bucks as a team don't fall off, because I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be one of the people who's going to lead that charge and lead them over that hump. He's extremely talented. We've talked a lot about talent because all these guys are talented. They're all in the runnings for being a top 32 NFL wide receiver, but I do think he is a lot better than some of the other names that we've talked about so far in terms of looking forward and having their career and their 2026 year.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, there's a couple things with Egbuka. It was not any one thing. At the beginning of the season, yeah, he was absolutely that dude, but they also didn't have a lot of other people there. But the way that it changed is what was so concerning for me. Um, Number one, Baker was throwing terrible passes only to him. Like his stats when it comes to like his accuracy dropped tremendously throwing to Igbuka, and you saw it so many times where it was like, and again, as a Saints fan, I see these guys all the time. Um, Baker would throw him a ball, and it wasn't in the same zip code as Igbuka, and I don't know how that starts to happen in the middle of the season rather than the beginning of it. And so like that was really weird. And then when he was finally getting him the ball, Egbuka was dropping everything like we were talking about. Um, So it was the combination of those two things, along with just like really bad play calling for Igbuka and the routes that he was running, and they didn't give him anything easy to help him out of the slump. They just said, "Keep doing what you're doing," and that didn't work at all. So I don't know if the play calling is necessarily going to get better. Um, I think Baker and him are going to figure it out together, and I don't think he's going to drop as many passes as far as actual. Again, another guy from Ohio State, so I will never bet against an Ohio State wide receiver. Um, I think that I I could have ranked Egbuka. He was one of the first people off the list. Talent-wise, he has the ability to do it. It just scares me that he has to overcome. Baker has to get back to throwing good passes to him. He has to get in sync with him, and he has to not drop passes, and he has to get some better play calling to help him out. I'm perfectly fine with somebody having him on the list of top 32 just based on what we saw at the beginning, but I'm not quite willing to do it, which could look really, really silly halfway into next year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. Next year it could definitely he could be the top in a top 32. I just would have to see it for one more year before I ranked him there myself. I think what happened to him was he was not a no-name guy, but he was like their third or fourth option going into the season, and then everybody else gets hurt, and then he's the only guy left. So then they just started peppering him, and he produced. But what happened, I believe, is why don't you put tape out there about what you're good at, what you're not good at, defenses, adjust. And if you put your number one corner on Igbuka and you kind of maybe shell cover it, put a shell over the top of him, I think that's why he just he just caved in on himself. Like his fall off should be studied.
He's a rookie. He was a rookie. Like, I get your point, but I just, yes, he was a rookie who wound up getting all of the looks from the defense because Godwin and Evans got hurt. So he was the only offensive player they had to key in on, like the only one. So yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. I'm not all that worried. He's a rookie. He'll come
Yeah,
back
like I said, he'll just have
to
to I think next year like he'll either like project like we all think he will, or he'll like return to the mean of what he was most of this season. So just we'll see. That's like why I didn't rank
okay,
him. Just a he's a we'll see guy.
for sure. On to the
For
next
sure.
name. In 30 seconds, I will remain on the hot seat. This is another name that we've already brought up. I've already kind of talked a little bit about him. It's Rome Odunze. So I had him at 23rd. JMO and David both didn't rank him. I think Chicago has some elite pass catching talent out there, and I think Rome Odunze is chief among them. I think he's the best wide receiver on that team in terms of looking into 2026 and especially looking past 2026.
Yeah, I my biggest problem with him is that they have the ability to spread the ball around so much. So like his rookie year, he had 101 targets and he caught 54 balls. And then last year he had 90 targets and he caught 44 of them, which is way more of a Caleb Williams problem than it is a Roma Dunze problem. However, it's again, he can't if we're looking at 2026 outlook, I'm trying to just do it based on talent, but I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not going to say he's just going to be perpetually bad because of his quarterback, but I haven't seen enough out of him to decipher how much it is on him versus Caleb Williams. I think a lot of it is on Caleb Williams, but I haven't seen enough to know for sure. There's, I see a lot of special plays from him, but I don't see a lot of special games from Adunze. That's my biggest gripe with him. But again, I can definitely see a world where he puts it all together and has an amazing season and I'll just be wrong and I'm fine with that. But for right now, like I said, it's just I've seen way too many special plays and not enough special games.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think
Yeah.
he is uh stop doing that. He is the second best player on his team. I have or the third. I think Burden is way better than him. Like you said,
Mm,
he has the size, he has the looks. Where he was drafted and where he is abysmal. Like he was
yeah.
drafted so high, he was drafted to be the number one, the main guy. He's always hurt. He never produces. Like I don't even think he can get like 100 yards in a game without getting hurt. Like, I don't like he's talented when he's healthy, but I don't know. I just don't see it.
Do you
Yeah,
um do you remember who Roma Dunze? Do you remember where Roma Dunze went to college? First of all,
Washington. And I think
do you
Jalen
remember?
McMillan's better, and Jalen Polk is not better.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up
Yeah.
Jalen Polk. Trust me, I know that. Yeah, I knew where
Yucky.
you're getting at.
But yeah, June
Yucky.
got drafted
Yeah.
like 8th overall, didn't he? Like in the first round, they traded up to get
Well,
him.
let's see.
Like,
It would have been Marvin Harrison was the first wide receiver taken. Then it was Neighbors.
neighbors.
Then it was Rome Odunze. Yeah,
yeah, he's
and
not
then
in
Brian
that
Thomas
class.
and Lad McConkey and all them. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that you say that. DJ Moore outperformed him when again in 5 less games he had 20 less yards this year. So I think it's insane to say that,
Yeah, but
but
if you're like the chain
whatever.
mover and you're getting the first downs and you're like, because DJ Moore is the guy that gets like all like the short balls. Dunze is like a shot play, dig route, deep ball sort of,
Do you
you
know who
know.
like the best chain mover in the league was this year?
Well,
Because
I'm
there's
wrong.
0 votes from any of us. Third and Keenan, baby. Keenan
Oh,
Allen.
gross. Grow up.
So overrated.
I watched him drop
He
so many balls this year. Don't even
I
start.
know he started to get the dropsies this year, hanging out with Quinn Johnson too much. But anyway, he was the most efficient third down chain mover in the NFL this year. But he's
Blech.
not getting no votes from any of us. So again, that notwithstanding, Rome Odunze is far and above better than DJ Moore. Anyway, on to our 33rd ranked wide receiver. This we've talked about him again a lot. It's Jacoby Myers. I ranked him 25th. David ranked him 31st. JMO didn't rank him. I totally get not ranking him or ranking him lower. He's had a career, like it's not like he's a young gun. We have a career we can look back on where he's been middling to okay. So I'm not mad at you guys ranking him low, but he looked special in the limited amount of time he had with Trevor Lawrence. So I just gave him a few nods off of that, but I don't really have much more to say about Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, there's nothing. He does everything well and nothing amazing. I really like when he was on the Patriots and watching him play there. He wanted it more than all the other guys that was on those Patriots rosters for wide receivers. So I like seeing that. I like seeing the fight and the grit. But yeah, he's just another guy for me. You know, one of the first couple guys off the list for sure, but just a dude.
Yeah, he's super efficient and effective in what he does. Like if you need a
Mhm.
3rd and 5, like you know he'll get open and he'll find that open zone. He played quarterback in college, so transferring over to wide receiver, he knows what the quarterback wants in key situations, and that's why he's been so good for this long.
Yep.
Excellent. So we'll do the next two as a pair. So 34th and 35th, both got 1 vote for 24th apiece. So I put in Jawan Jennings as my 24th. JMO and David didn't rank him. David, you put in Calvin Ridley as 24th, and JMO and I didn't rank him. So I'll just quick hit on Jawan Jennings. He's just kind of he's another one of those fringe number one guys to me. I feel like anyone from 22nd all the way to 45th could have been in those last 10 slots, 10, 11 slots.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily that I think he's anything special, but I do think he can do it when he is kind of that number one, seeing a lot of targets on a team. Any other thoughts on Jawan Jennings before we jump over to Calvin Ridley?
No, just that his high end level is higher than other people's for sure. Like he had that one game with Brock Purdy where he had whatever it was double digit catches for 200 something yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever. So he definitely has that ability where other people don't like. I don't think Jacoby Myers can get 200 receiving yards in a game, but Jawan Jennings definitely could.
Yeah, I just fault him for being in that Shanahan offense, and he's just
Mhm.
kind of a jag in that offense where when he got hurt, Kendrick Bourne, like he filled in and
Exploded.
yeah, had pretty similar games and numbers, so that's why
Yep.
I didn't have him listed.
Okay. On Calvin Ridley, any thoughts?
I like Calvin Ridley. I mean, he's a dog. He's a beast. When he came back from the whole betting scandal and all that, like the videos of him coming into training camp and just like burning everybody, making everybody else look like they're running in slow motion. So I just don't know if he can tap back into that. I think he might be a little past his prime, but I have no problem with him being ranked there. I think he's still definitely the most talented wide receiver on his team.
Yeah. I think this year will be a not a coming out year, but a return to the mean with him because Dayball is the OC. So I think, yeah, they're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to be a pretty functional offense. So I think he's going to benefit.
Nice.
Yeah, I think not even just scandal, not even just because of the scandal, but I think he's kind of like a budget Josh Gordon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving
Sober.
on to the next name in 36th, we have Michael Wilson. So I didn't rank him. David didn't rank him. JMO, you had him 26th. I don't even think he's the most talented receiver on his team. I'd put
Mhm.
MHJ above him if we're looking into next year. So interested to see why him and not MHJ. I feel like would be Marvin Harrison Jr. would be
Yeah.
my question to you.
So Marvin Harrison Jr. does not have the dog in him. He's just a little, oh, it makes me so bad. He was given everything. He has the pedigree with his dad being a Hall of Fame wide receiver. He's bigger and faster than his dad. He has all the tools. And number one, they really don't use him in the system all that well because they just have him running go routes all the time. But like number two, every time he goes up for a ball, I've never seen him fight hard for a ball. And it makes me so mad because, like the DeAndre Hopkins of the world are obviously undersized and everything that goes with it. But he's like, I would rather die than not catch this ball. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just like, whatever happens, happens. So the biggest thing with Michael Wilson is that he just like when MHJ was hurt and he stepped in, he was doing things that he had never done before. He's been in the league 3 or 4 years and they drafted him to be good and he just hasn't done it. But they finally had to trust him because nobody else on the team was alive at that point. So week 10, Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt. Week 11, they come right out. And the other side of this is that they no longer had Kyler because Kyler was out. So they had Jacoby Brisket throwing him the ball. And he went full Jameis, where he's like, I'm throwing this ball 500 billion times a game. And it was so fun to watch, number one. But number two, the main recipient of that was Michael Wilson. So not to drag this out for too long, but the first game after Marvin Harrison was hurt, Michael Wilson came in, got 18 targets, 15 catches, 185 yards. Follows that up with 15 targets, 10 catches, 118 yards. Then he has a little bit of a down week, still 7 targets, not bad. Then follows that up with 16 targets, 11 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like I think he just slipped through the cracks and they never used him the way that he was supposed to be used. So seeing that talent going into next year, I think they're going to look at Marvin Harrison and be like, you know, it's time to, nut up or shut up because you are not delivering on what we drafted you to be. Meanwhile, this guy over here has been with our organization and trying his heart out. So, I think that they're going to give him a lot of looks and a lot of balls and just see what he can do with them. Pause. And I think
Hey,
that that's why, I'm putting that toughness and that grit and that want to be the best over just the physical traits that Marvin Harrison Jr. has.
yeah.
Fair enough.
What I hold against him is A, playing for the Cardinals. B, he didn't produce, well, I guess he didn't play with Kyler much. But what usually happens is when you have a backup quarterback in, the backup receivers catch fire because they have practice and they have chemistry with
Yep.
that quarterback. So, like, when the starters in, like, how training camp goes, the ones practice with the ones, the twos practice. So that's kind of how it goes. So usually when you have the backup in, everybody else that's a backup has that connection already sealed.
Yep.
So I would be curious what he does next year as far as a new quarterback, a new system, and then learning with all of them at the same time.
And who knows who it'll be quarterbacking out there in Arizona next year. But
Yeah,
anyway,
true. It's not going to be Kyler.
yeah. I'll be interested to see if a team tries and makes Kyler work as their number one. I think there's a few landing spots for him, or maybe that'll work. I mean, I can maybe even see it in Atlanta, but that's a conversation for another day. Um, on to 37th. We've talked about him a lot. So any parting thoughts? I ranked him 28th. You guys didn't rank him. It's Luther Burden. Any parting thoughts on Luther Burden before we move on to 38th?
I hope he's really good because he's on my dynasty squad.
Yeah, he
Fair enough.
showed a lot of potential this year, so I can see why he's listed where he is.
Okay. In 38th, we have the second of our hometown teams to be mentioned. It's Stephon Diggs. So I ranked him 29th. You guys didn't rank him. An interesting fact I found when I was looking up, he has the best catch percentage for anyone in the NFL with over 30 catches, and he had 84. So that's just insane for
Dang.
catch percentage rate is. He has great hands. He is an absolute zone killer. He's a horrible person, just like a lot of other people on this list, but I feel like that's worth mentioning. But I still think, like I said when we were arguing this the last 10 weeks, Stephon Diggs is still a number one wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, on your list. I watched him every week. So the thing with him is when he shows up, he shows up. Most of the time, he doesn't show up. And you threw out that little fancy stat. Drake May had led the league in completions percentage. So somebody on the team is going to lead the team in completion, So
Yeah, but
Catch percentage, yeah.
I guess my point was it was for anyone with over 30 catches, and he had 80 or 85. I said 84. He actually had 85. Like that's quite the disparity. That's not just like leading the league. That's an outlier.
so
I guess was the reason why I
yeah.
brought it up.
So Diggs, like
I get your point.
he has a really good September, October throughout his whole career, but when the later months come, he disappears, and it's been that way his whole career. They got sick of it in Buffalo, and they shipped him out of there because he brings it early and then he fades. And I mean, you saw it at the Super Bowl, you saw it the whole playoffs. Like, yeah, Drake didn't have time and stuff, but yeah, I don't
I
think
saw something
he's.
else. I saw something else in those playoffs, and it had nothing to do with Stephon Diggs. I saw plenty of tape, including in the Super Bowl when Stephon Diggs was wide open, and Drake May
Is that when
just
he was fighting
didn't
the
see
guy or
him.
spinning the ball?
So
Or
so
breaking
yes,
up with
both
his
of those were
girlfriend at
awful.
halftime?
Both of those were awful. But no, there was one of the sacks Drake May took in the Super Bowl was absolutely ridiculous. Like he had Stephon Diggs open on a crosser, and it wasn't one of those like he was getting hit and then Diggs got open. It was like Diggs was open, misses one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi. Drake May avoids a sack, four Mississippi, five Mississippi. Then he got sacked, and Diggs was open the whole time. So I don't think prime Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne would have put up anything with Drake May in this playoff run. So I'm not putting any of that on Stephon Diggs.
I was waiting for it. That's right. You can have Diggs on the Chargers, and then next year you can come back to this list and leave him
I
off.
I don't want Diggs on the Chargers.
Do it. Third down.
I don't even want Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah. Facts.
In 39th, we have the white George Pickens running mate. That's Michael Pittman Jr. So I ranked him 32nd. JMO ranked him 30th. David didn't rank him. He is another one of those just like extremely talented guys. Hasn't really put it together in any long stretch of time. So I kind of ranked him here more on potential of 2026, similar with Emeka Egbuka, except at least Emeka had
Yep.
like the flash at the beginning of this year. But it's not necessarily that I expect him to, or that he's played like a number one, true number one yet. But I expect him to continue progressing, and he has all the tools.
Yeah, he played better this year than he did the last couple of years. So I'm just kind of putting him there to see. I think that he's going to continue to be just barely better than a guy, or like more consistent, better version of a guy.
I mean, I like him. I just think he's a better complement than the main part of an offense, which is fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's fair. And that reflects with where we ranked him. In 40th, we have another guy who I think is just a compliment. We have Jerome Addison. So I didn't rank him. JMO didn't rank him. David, you had him 29th.
Jordan Addison?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, Jordan Addison. Sorry, I was reading another name.
Yeah.
But it's Jordan Addison. I don't have much to say about Jordan Addison. He's a good possession guy who's a great compliment to Jettas, but I don't think he's much more than that.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
ranked him where I did. Sorry, JMO. Just
You're good.
because to me he's kind of like a younger Calvin Ridley, so I could
Mhm.
definitely see him like on a team being a one and producing, or even with the Vikings if they had a healthy, good quarterback. Jetta's there, or even when Jetta isn't there, I think he could produce with a decent quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean his biggest trait is that he's been able to catch a lot of touchdowns. I think it was 19 touchdowns in his first 2 years. Um, and that's like, it's not really a sticky stat. There's a lot of things that influence that compared to other things, but if he can keep that trajectory going, he couldn't quite do it last year, but if he can keep that up, I could see him being, really really good and sticking around.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll just touch on our last two names. So we have Ladarius McConkarius or Ladidi McConkey or Lad McConkey. JMO, you ranked him 31st. David and I didn't rank him. Uh, Similar to kind of some of the names we've talked about earlier, I kind of view him as just a slot guy who can be a really, really, really good number two, high 1B level potential, but he needs somebody else to be the guy on the offense. That's why I didn't rank him in the top 32, even though he's
Mhm.
the best receiver on the team that I cheer for. I still don't think he's a
Yeah.
top 32 receiver, but I get where you're coming from ranking him there. And again, you're ranking him 31st, so you just kind of have him on those fringe guys. And then
Yeah.
last we had Jerry Judy. David ranked him 32nd. We didn't rank him. So any thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, with McConkey, it's just looking forward to next year. I think that he's going to be playing even more out of the slot. I don't think that like Keenan's going to be eating up the targets and whatever. So I think he has the potential to do kind of like the same way that I was talking up in what Chris Godwin was able to do out of the slot. I think McConkey can do that and then some. Um, I do think that he needs a number one guy to really help with that. But I think that they'll be able to put it together, or at least put somebody there like Trey Harris or somebody that's going to be imposing or intimidating enough to command some looks. So that's why I think McConkey is going to be able to get open and play well. And he had a little bit of a sophomore slump to start the year, and I don't think that that's going to happen again. I think he's going to come out firing in all cylinders and getting the bulk of the looks inside, and I think he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I'll just touch on Jerry Jeudy real quick.
Mhm.
He's the jag of all jags, which jag means just a guy. He should be studied as well because his potential is so great. He has all the tools, all the talent. He just, I don't know, just hasn't came into fruition. I do think he is like the last of the 32. Because if he had Jameis Winston thrown to him every game, he'd be a Hall of Famer, that's for sure.
True.
'Cause he has flashes where with those Jameis games,
Yeah.
200 yards, 200 like insane games,
Yeah.
and then just
So did Cedric Tillman, though.
yeah, then he just
But
disappears and
yeah,
nobody understands why, and it's just his whole career has
So
been
did
like that.
Terrell Pryor, the receiver.
the quarterback.
No, the receiver.
No, I
He
know.
made
It's
the
just
switch.
it's so good. I love that story. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
for
that
sure.
pretty much wraps it up. I mean, like we've been talking about these last couple guys, especially, they're all interchangeable from here to 45. So it is what it
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah, yeah. And I hope you're right, JMO. And I hope Lad McConkey doesn't he had a sophomore slump, and I hope he goes right back. I'm more of the game that I think the NFL saw his game tape and they figured out where he likes to kind of squeeze into the holes of those zones. Pause. But I don't but I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope, but I hope you're right.
Fair.
So I just figured I would close this out. So again, we talked about Green Bay, Buffalo, and the Raiders being the teams that did not get a singular vote. Top three is the Rams, the Cowboys, and Cincinnati. So just an interesting note, so to speak, are those top three and
Yep.
bottom three of how we ranked at least their top end wide receiver talent, not necessarily the whole wide receiver core. Closing that out. Moving on to hot topics, not sponsored. What do you guys have this week?
Well, I think we're definitely going to have to bring up the NFL Combine. Um, Sonny Styles would be the linebacker out of Ohio State that absolutely dominated the Combine. He's almost identical in size to Calvin Johnson, which is crazy in and of itself because of how much of a freak he was. 6'5", 244 pounds. He ran a 4.4640, which at that size is just disgusting. And then he had a 43 and a half inch vertical, which is an inch more than what Megatron had coming out. And we all know his ability. So that's obviously disgusting. And then 11 feet, 2 inches in the broad jump. So just dominating every single event that he's in. He's a freak of nature. Linebackers have kind of gone by the wayside in the NFL. You know, they don't, it's not really, everything is all revolving around like big athletic edge rushers and what they can do. But I think when he goes to a team, I'm sure he could play middle linebacker, but they're likely going to have him on the outside because with those crazy scores, he's likely going to be able to cover a lot of guys, and it's going to be way less of a mismatch. So um, he was really fun to watch in the combine, and like I said, just like every other day I was getting a new meme or like a flashback of like, do you remember how good this guy did in the combine? Yeah, Sonny did better than him. And it was like across all positions and across all different players. So yeah, I don't know if you guys how much of it that you guys saw, but it just like his scores were unreal. And they have what's called a RAS score, RAS. And that
Raz or Riz?
Riz score. I'm sure his Riz score is probably good too, to
With a
be
name
honest.
like
But
that, oh my god, Sunny Style.
Sonny Styles, heck yeah. So yeah, Raz's relative athletic score, and it basically is exactly what you think it is. They put everything together and they give you a score, and his was a 9.99 unofficial out of 10, which makes sense. I mean, he dominated it. He was just a man among boys.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot in our group chat about this. That that's insane. A linebacker putting up near and or better than Calvin Johnson numbers is insane. Although, and we talked about this last week when we talked about DK Metcalf. I think a lot of what the hype around the combine is just talking about freak athletes and freak athletes doing freak athlete things. Is there a great football player underneath that freak athlete? And that's where
Yeah,
we talk about DK Metcalf. And my argument is I think he's a good football player who also happens to be a freak athlete. And because he's a freak athlete, you get the flashes of holy crap, this guy can do anything, but he's just not a great football player under there. Then you get
yeah,
Aaron Donalds, the Calvin Johnsons, the um we talked about him last week. I can't remember. Uh, James Harrison, players like
oh
that
yeah,
who are absolutely freak athletes and insane
Nick
football players.
Emenwari.
Yep. I think we put so much stock, and I shouldn't say we, because I don't, put so much stock on these off the board combine results.
Yeah,
We don't focus on what actually matters, which is okay, watch their game tape. Are they a great football player? And then are they at least competing in these scoring events in like the top quartile, right? Like, and that's
yeah,
a boring way to look at things. It really is because it's more fun to be like, holy crap, this guy's this size, has
yeah,
a hand that's bigger than life itself, and he can throw the ball 80 yards. But it's like that's not really what matters at the end of the day. Like,
right,
if that's what mattered, then Drew Brees wouldn't have been a starting NFL quarterback, let alone a Hall of Famer first ballot. So
yeah,
I do just like I don't know, some of the combine luster is lost on me. And maybe that's because I don't love like college football, so I'm not like exactly all that ecstatic to see how
yeah.
these guys play. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
I care more about these athletic numbers for defensive guys than I do offensive guys for sure. Like and then, with Sonny Styles again, like yes, I agree with the whole quartile thing, but he obviously ran the fastest 40-yard dash among all linebackers in this year's combine, but his vertical jump was the first all-time among linebackers. Every linebacker that's ever done a vertical jump, his was number one. And then with his broad jump, he was tied for fourth among all time for linebackers. So to be able to put all those things together is crazy. And again, I care a lot more about somebody being able to do that on the defensive side of the ball than I do on the offensive side of the ball for the same reasons that you touched on.
Yeah, I like the combine. I still think it's effective and what it's proven to do. Because there's a bunch of different like practices and little tests that you can watch. And if you're like studying wide receivers, they have that wide receiver drill where they like flip both sides on a line and they got to catch it.
On the
Then
gauntlet, yeah.
yeah, and then there's like
Mhm.
bench pressing. You want your offensive lineman and defensive lineman to like bench well. So it's still comparable to today. And what I like the most about it is it gives these lower tier guys a chance to like compete with like the upper echelon colleges. Like the guys that aren't always on TV and they didn't go to these big schools gives them a chance to shine. And that's what I like most about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
I'm not saying it's useless, I guess is my point. Like, I'm not saying it's useless. I agree with you. I think, like, a lot of those drills where you're actually put in positions like that, the wide receiver gauntlet, where it's kind of it's not similar to a game. You're not catching 8 balls within 4 seconds in a game, but it kind of teaches them, okay, if you're going through a route going this way, like, you need to be able to focus and catch a ball in a very short window under stress. Like, totally. I get that. I guess it more for me is like everything coming out of the NFL page or anything on Twitter is always like, oh, this guy ran this 40-yard dash time. And it's like, okay, who really cares between a 4.26 and a 4.33 for a wide receiver? And I shared with you guys the meme of
without
the
pads.
top,
Yeah.
yeah, the top 10 40-yard dash times in the last or of all time. There's more reckless endangerment driving arrests than there are 1,000-yard receivers. Like,
Yeah.
out of those top 10
Yep.
40-yard dash times. Like, I mean, you have names like John Ross, and I remember the John Ross hype, and then they get overdrafted because they come out with these insane results, and it's like the game tape doesn't match up with somebody who's actually talented at football
Right.
and fast. Obviously, they're talented at football. They're D1 college athletes who are going into the NFL, but like everything's relative. They're not talented at
Yeah.
football compared to like, okay, is this linebacker Sonny Styles? Is he going to be better than Luke Kuechly? Does he? And I
Right.
trying to get a gotcha moment, and then Luke Kuechly actually did very well at the combine, so I can't really bring it
Yes, he did.
exactly. But like instinctual
Yeah.
backing play is so much more important in my opinion
Yeah,
than some of those measurables.
but that's part of the combine too, is they take these guys in like back rooms and offices and they give them like Wonderlic tests and they kind of plug their
Yeah,
brain with
For
a
sure.
bunch of so
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes of it. Like the other big one to talk about is the tight end from Oregon, Kenyon Sadiq, running a 4.3940, which was really fun to see, really cool. Tight ends are funny. Like the it's kind of well known in the fantasy world that you want a tight end that scores really that has a really high RAS score. Like that is very indicative of a good tight end for fantasy football. And obviously, if they're good at fantasy football, they're good in real life for the most part. But with him, like again, the fact that he ran a 4.39, do I really care? No, because tight ends are kind of funny. You know, he's 6'3, 241 pounds. That sounds huge. He's the same size as Evan Ingram. I don't know if you've ever seen Evan Ingram on a football field. He's not Trey McBride. He's not, he's not Brock Bowers. He's not this massive towering force. He's just like basically a wide receiver. That's just like a little too big to be a wide receiver. So the
Yeah,
fact that Kenyon
taller,
Sadiq
broader.
ran that exactly, it wasn't that part didn't really stand out as like super impressive. I mean, it's just super impressive that he got it, but do I really care? Not really. If you add an extra zero point 0.1, zero point 0.2 seconds to it, whatever. Kenyon Sadiq did do really well at the combine, so there are other reasons that got me excited. He's definitely the best tight end coming out of this class, but like he's not even in the realm of like last year with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. Like he's not touching those guys. So, again, that speed score is great and really cool to watch, but like, meh. So,
yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And David, just to go back to your point about the Wonderlic and the back office, like I completely agree. That's valuable. I'm not saying there's not value in the combine. I guess my point is more when the NFL is sharing highlights, it's never like, oh, this guy got a 36 on the Wonderlic. It's always, well, this guy had a 44-inch vertical, or this guy did this guy did that. And it's always like the measurables, and the measurables that, in my opinion, are like obviously correlated, but not entirely indicative of who will be a good NFL player.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
guess that's just kind of where I lose. It loses a bit of its luster on me, but that's.
I mean, it is a faulty kind of program because I mean, you switch sports and you look at like Jokic on the Nuggets.
yeah,
Like he doesn't look like a crazy athlete. He doesn't care about basketball, and he's the
he
best
really
player in the
doesn't. Yeah.
world. And it's just so funny how that works.
Well, and that's what's so funny about Combine is that, like, everybody's always trying to get a story out too, right, wrong, or otherwise. They just want to get it out fast. And there was a lot of hype last year about Teteroa McMillan, and he was talking about how he doesn't really watch football, and it
Yeah.
turned into this whole thing about like, oh my God, this kid doesn't care, he doesn't want to be here, blah blah blah. But the reality of it is like he was just trying to play college as best that he could. He doesn't watch the NFL. He wasn't really looking into that, and he didn't That's not what he was focused on until he was there. And obviously, we all saw how that worked out, Rookie of the Year. So, yeah, don't believe everything you hear and see during this time of year for the NFL.
Yeah, I did hear that Fernando Mendoza was asked by a GM to go get arrested so that he'd slide in the draft. Although I think that's hilarious because the Raiders have the number 1 overall pick. So if he got arrested, I think that would just lock it in that the Raiders would absolutely take him,
Imagine the
Yep.
jersey
especially if it was
sales.
something heinous.
Yeah, but how many people were at his birthday party? How many friends did he have at his birthday party? That's a deep dive. If you guys don't get that one, we can't be friends.
I guess we're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've never seen Draft Day? Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, I have, but I don't.
Oh my God. All right, I'm gonna pull a David. I'm just gonna leave the podcast.
Okay, so any other hot topics around the NFL? We're starting to get some free agent shakeout, but it's still nothing major. It's a lot of he said, she said. I know David shared the David Montgomery news today in our group chat and said he was going to bring it up, but then I saw David Montgomery himself came out on Twitter, tweeted for the first time in almost 2 years, and basically said that he didn't say that. So I don't know if maybe he's trying to go back alley through his agent to get him to say that, but then also save PR just in case.
Yeah, I
But
looked online and they had multiple sources on that, and then something else I
Yeah, I'm
found
pretty
was
sure it was Jeremy Fowler that reported it. So yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see
it
what
was.
happens with all that.
Aaron
Yeah.
Jones is also likely to get released
Saw that.
or traded. So yeah, what's kind of interesting about this point in the NFL season is the new league year starts pretty soon. I don't know the exact date, but it is probably within the next weekend. There's going to be a lot of names that are going to either get traded or released. So that's just something exciting to look out
It's
for.
excited. Yeah.
And a lot of restructuring that's just going to push dead cap money. I saw the Cowboys are going to push 63 million out of this year, so they were in the hole pretty significantly, and they were able to push out with that. And then you also the cap's going up 22 million, which is rather significant, but I think that always kind of gets a little overhyped because that gets a lot of teams that are close on the cap space excited, or I guess I'll say a lot of fan bases on teams that are close to the cap space excited, but it's all relative. Every team gets that 22 million, so it's not just like sure, you might have a little bit more money, but now the people who have an insane amount of cap space now have even more. So it's all relative. I think it's interesting. It's good for the players. I also saw I think it was Jeremiah Love say that he needs to be good at pass protection because he's going to get paid $2 million a year and the quarterback's going to get paid $50 million a year, so he has to understand that and just be good at pass protection.
True.
I thought that was an interesting take out of running back. At least he understands where at least the current NFL values wide receivers. But
Yep.
any other thoughts?
Yeah,
No,
Jeremiah
I'm
Love
good.
is so good. Like I knew it going in, and then just his like combine just backs up like how good you really think he is.
Well, and also, yeah, I mean, the couple players that were going to get drafted above him at running back ended up going back to college anyway. So he is the clear-cut number one guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Absolutely. Okay, so next up is round 2 of Master Debater. Should be round 3, but David was lame and missed out on last week. As a reminder, 30 minutes before the episode, our weekly judge will hand out the topic and assign each contestant a side that they then have to debate. Each contestant gets 90 seconds to argue their side, and then it's an open floor until someone gives the judge just the right tug and he explodes and showers us with his decision.
Gross.
So this week I challenged David and Jeremiah to do cake versus ice cream. So the debate is cake versus ice cream. I went first the first time, so I think I'm going to challenge you, Jeremiah. You're going to go first. Let me get the timer up. You are about to have 90 seconds of your opening argument. Jeremiah, would you like to share what side you have and then begin your argument?
Yeah, ice cream, ready, set, go. So ice cream is obviously better than cake because of the fact that you get so many different flavors, more so than cake. You can put anything you want. So you get your base of ice cream, and then you get to put in whatever toppings or anything else you like in with it, which makes it even better. You can have soft serve, you can have hard ice cream, you can have all kinds of different. You can get SpongeBob with his eyeballs being gumballs in ice cream if you want. So there's so much versatility with it. And honestly, it's so nice. If you want ice cream, you can just go and get ice cream. Go and get a pint of Ben and Jerry's, not a sponsor. You can go to the store and just grab
Yeah.
it. If you want cake, you got to get it in a box and you got to make it, which is way more effort than I ever want to put into anything. So just the fact that I can go out and grab it and then eat it is fantastic. Also, there's a million places that you can go and get some ice cream. It's really hard to just go through a drive-through and get a slice of cake somewhere. So for that reason, I'm going to be sticking with ice cream. And personally, I just like the flavor of it better. I just don't, cake doesn't do a whole lot for me. But when I get a spoonful of ice cream in my big fat boy face, I
Ooh.
go, num, 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 num. And then you add in cones. I mean, that's not really part of the argument, but there's a lot. I like sugar cones. I like regular cones. I love waffle cones. That's just another amazing treat that you can add to it. So for those reasons, I will be sticking with ice cream.
Nice. Good for
David.
you. I mean, what is better than cake and ice cream? All right. So,
True.
cake is definitely the top choice here because on any significant milestone, you celebrate with cake. Imagine going to a wedding and everybody's eating ice cream. That is crazy. That would be a bunch of psychopaths. There are so many like variations with cake you could do. There's layered cake, buttercream, sponge cake, chocolate. You can go on and on, but my all-time favorite cake is cheesecake. That is
Mm.
dynamite. All you need is a fork and a plate to eat it. There's no dripping. You don't got to worry about like rushing to eat it. You don't got to worry about like spilling. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of do, but it won't make a mess on like your hands and stuff if it's like dripping and like dripping on your clothes. And like in the winter months, like who really eats ice cream? You want a nice warm cake in your belly.
Okay, I will open the floor back up for any back and forth arguments.
So I will say, like, again, yeah, you do need a knife and a fork and a plate to eat cake. But if you have some ice cream in a cone, you don't need any of that
Yeah, you just gotta
because
race
you
to
have
eat
it.
it. That's the only thing you'll be like, and
I
then
don't know
like
if
you
you've ever
can't
seen the
just
way that I eat
yeah.
food. I promise you, ice cream does not melt around me. Even in the hottest of summer months, that stuff is gone. So, and then the thing that's holding my ice cream, I get to eat that afterwards too. So it's just the best of both worlds. There's no comparison. I can't ever think of a world. And you know what? Cake is so bad that they had to come up and decide to make cupcakes because they're like, oh, you don't like that? Wait. Try this version
I
of it.
totally
Maybe you'll
forgot
like
about
this instead.
cupcakes. That's like the best. Like, you want to talk
Yeah,
about
that's the
something to
best thing that
go and
it's
something you could eat on the fly?
yeah, it's a byproduct of it because the original cake was so bad that they had to try and
But
sell it.
dude,
They're like, oh, let's try this instead.
cheesecake. Cheesecake is just OP. You can't even compare.
Cheesecake is great, but I can only eat 3 bites of it and then I'm full because it's so rich and delicious. Ice cream, I'll eat a whole Ben and Jerry's pint of that, and I do not care. Actually, we should save that discussion for a whole nother time because Bill and I have talked privately about that and the fact that like I'm really good about it. I'll only eat like a third of it, but Bill's like, no, I'm putting down this whole thing.
Absolutely. If I open a Ben and Jerry's pint, it is gone. Like there's no stopping mid Ben and Jerry's pint. Okay, so I will call it off
Fair.
right there. You both started great arguments. I'd like to acknowledge that you both went the route that I did last week, and you both started with variations and how that was a winning argument. So thank you both for learning from me. I will now continue part
Yeah.
of the debate tree.
Except Jeremiah totally forgot fraps, and that's like if you,
That's true. Fraps are
that's a
fraps are
winning
really
pinnacle
yummy.
right there. You know, because that's
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
ultimate.
I will have to say, so I am judging for the fans. I am judging who had the better argument, not necessarily which side I like better.
Okay.
I am going to go with ice cream and Jeremiah.
Let's go,
But
baby.
it's
I think you won
seasonal.
that.
You guys ain't eating ice cream right now.
I had ice cream last week.
You fat
I had
piece
ice
of.
cream that I'm probably gonna go have after this. I don't know. Like
You had cake at a birthday party recently, and you probably ate all the extra pieces because you said you were gonna.
No,
Fair.
my son did. Thank you. It
okay.
was his birthday.
You said you were a glutton around cake, so you know.
I am a glutton. I'm a glutton around anything.
Yeah.
I honestly, I might actually personally give cake the nod over ice cream, but I think JMO is more convincing. So JMO moves to 1-1. David, you move to
Let's
0-1.
The cone
And
was
1-0.
sets it apart. I thought about that when I was like researching.
Cone was a good
'Cause it's-
argument.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
because you can do stuff. Get
I
free.
think cheesecake was a great argument. You almost had
Dude,
me sold to
cheesecake was
cheesecake because
good.
that's a
It's
completely
amazing.
different end. I agree, and it's a completely different
Yeah.
spectrum than just a traditional cake. So that almost won me over. But I think Jeremiah got me with the variations and then
Yeah, toppings.
being
And
able to, yeah,
Mm.
toppings, anything. Like
Heck
there's a
yeah.
sundae for any flavor. So with that, we are going to move on to David's Cookie Corner. Did we actually
Nice.
land on the moon? Was the CIA responsible for the assassination of JFK? Are birds even real? The people yearn for answers, and David will try his best to provide them. In this new off-season segment, David, over to you.
Hey, so I have something interesting for us, as always. We all remember that famous Alex Jones clip where he's screaming, "They're putting chemicals in the water, turning the frogs gay." That is true. So it came out a couple years ago that he said that many years ago, but it came out recently
Yep.
that that is actually true. So what is this chemical they're putting in the water? Billy's laughing. It is atrazine. Atrazine is a type of herbicide that uses to control grasses and weeds. So yeah, farmers use it. It's in your pesticides. It gets in the water.
Did you use hard H herbicides? That's crazy.
Well, I'm just reading it, so I'm just trying to read. And
All right, keep going.
so what Alex Jones talked about was a frog study. Obviously, they're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah.
So, in this frog study, 0.1 parts per billion is 30 times below EPA drinking water standards. That's what they're testing the frogs with. And exposure to this led to feminization. 10% of the male frogs became females. The 20% of the male frogs became hermaphrodites or had other abnormal I can't even say that word. Abnormalities.
Abnormalities.
Demasculization. Male frogs exhibited reduced testosterone level up to 10-fold decrease. So, yeah, this is true. There is chemicals in the water that are not good for human consumption. And the EPA lets us, they just raised the limit to 9 parts per billion. And all these studies were done at the lowest of 0.1 parts per billion.
So I'm going to lead us off before we get in trouble. Like, yes, obviously, water's turning the frogs gay. None of us here, we're not talking about actual sexual preference or anything like that. We don't care about any of that. But the reality of it is, yeah, there's legitimate chemicals being put in the water that is greatly
It's
affecting
affecting
us in ways that
hormones in men. I'm sure it's doing stuff to females. There's also like microplastics that have similar effects, but not as
right. So the reality is, like, yeah, somebody sounds like a crazy conspiracy theorist when they bring up something like this, and everybody laughs it off because of the way that he decided to package that belief or that stance. But yeah, the reality of it is we are unknowingly putting stuff in our body that we definitely shouldn't be, and that's the whole point of having a government and an EPA program and everything like that to try and protect us from that. And obviously, they're not doing a very good job, so that sucks.
yeah. What do you got to say, Bill? You're over there giggling.
I got nothing. I told you I don't have the brain for this in terms of like
I know you probably never even heard the first bit.
Oh no, I have the Alex Jones.
Okay.
Yes, I absolutely have. But I purposely don't choose to invest any brain cells into these conspiracies. It just made me laugh. Longtime listeners to the show may know that it took us once 8 tries to get through one of our episodes, and that was the Blue Bills joke. I just get a case of the giggles, and I can't stop sometimes. So that was one of those. I was not expecting you to come with the water turning the frogs gay argument this week, and that just sent me. So I'm glad I've actually recovered enough to have this monologue. But any closing thoughts before we go to anything else?
Nope.
No.
Careful the water that you drink. And I mean,
Yeah, if you live next to
I
a
still
farm,
yeah,
it's a
I still
pesticide,
think
herbicides.
I'm still choosing that water over Dasani. So I said what I said. I don't care.
Yeah. Any filtered water
Just
you
have a
buy is
Brita.
gross.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else, JMO? Over to you.
Yeah, so my anything else today is I was thinking about this. I want to bring it up. All the afterthought flavors on certain foods, or like the B teams or the picked last for kickball flavors of foods, I feel like they don't get appreciated enough. And Bill, we talked about this one time when it comes to jelly, like yeah, everybody loves grape jelly, and then there's other jellies that people like for one reason or another. But like apple jelly never really gets brought up, and I love apple jelly. It's just one of
Apple
those things.
jelly's
It's
banger.
yeah, it's phenomenal, but people always forget about it and it gets left out. And I don't think that that's fair. And then I started thinking, what are some other foods like that that always seem to get left out? And some of my personal favorites that really bother me is so like I love any kind of like Danish. I love bread in general, but you're gonna mix bread and I don't know, more sugar, I'm totally in for it. But again, people like they have their favorites. They're going for a raspberry or a blueberry, but like cheese Danish is phenomenal. I love it. And people are always like, "Oh, I don't want that. I want the one with the fruit." And it's like you're not giving it the respect that it deserves. And a couple other things along that same line is I love yogurt. I eat yogurt all the time. Key lime pie yogurt is great. I love it, but people will shy away from that because they want their regular fruit flavors, and they need to be giving it a chance. And I just thought about this now while we were talking about cakes. Everybody's like, I like my chocolate or vanilla. My favorite cake, I think, is carrot cake. Like carrot cake,
Ooh, carrot
it's
cake's bomb.
so good.
Very
But
good.
again, it's like it just gets passed over for all these other ones that are like just always in the top, for good reason. They're good flavors, but I guess what I'm trying to say is don't forget about the little guys. There are some really good flavors of foods out there that you need not to be skipping over. That's where I'm going
Absolutely.
with that.
I would say
Yeah.
broaden your horizons in general. The one thing I will completely disagree with you on is key lime pie yogurt. I love key lime pie.
Okay.
There's something about sour flavored yogurt that just
Mm.
really like yogurt's already sour enough, and then when it tastes even more sour than it normally tastes, to me that's like a red flag of like this yogurt's gone bad. So that's like I can't get over that with yogurt. But other
Okay.
than that, I completely agree. I think like broaden your horizons, people. Try different flavors. With that said, like a pure vanilla ice cream is going back to the ice cream is like A1 if you can get like a really, really, really good vanilla
Nope.
bean ice
But
cream.
okay.
But
Mint's the worst. Do you want to know the difference between jam and jelly?
No, I already know the difference. So jam is made from whole fruits, whereas jelly is made from the preservatives. So we don't
It's
have to go into that any
it's
deeper. Nope,
seeds.
that's fine. Yeah.
That's actually the difference. Seeds.
Yeah.
there's definitely another joke somewhere layered underneath. David, what's your
Or jammed in there. So my anything
Can't
else
jelly my
is are you guys sick of the size of your wives' like water containers? Like
Oh my
dude,
God.
my wife's just like, oh my God, can you get my water and like put it here? And it's like this freaking big. It doesn't fit in any cup holder in anything we have. Like not in the cars, not like things giant. Like you really can't just get like a normal one and just fill it like a couple times more. You have to get this giant thing to like lug around and things like king, 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 just making all these stupid noise. It's like, oh my God, it's so aggressive. And it's like even putting it on like the end table is like it's like, why do we carry around gallons of water on us all the time? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally hear where you're coming from. Same thing in my household. When I have to go and get my wife's water, I have to put on one of those weightlifter belts first, and just like kind of strap it down. Maybe get some backpack straps, and I'm like, "Yep, let me bring this over to you." I don't understand it either. Like, I've got a smaller water bottle and I've got a bigger water bottle. In my bigger water
Billy has
bottle
one
is
right now. Where the hell he's drinking out
smaller
of.
than it's smaller than the one that my wife has for sure. So I don't get that either. And anything that doesn't fit in a cup holder is immediately thrown out of my household. I will not
It's
have
so
it.
frustrating.
I've
Like it
got
just
one
dances
that I'm
around the top. It doesn't even like sit in
yeah.
there. So it's like
Oh, I've got one that I'm holding on to that doesn't fit in a cup holder, but I really like it, so I'm not going to let go of it quite yet. But yeah, that is the worst. And yeah, just fill it a couple more times. And if you want to be healthy, you're getting in more steps anyway going to fill it up. So what's the issue?
it's a win-win. All right, Bill, I see you
Yeah.
drinking out of that thing. Let's show it to the camera.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is it's
That's
gigantic.
not
I
terrible.
actually
Yeah,
I
it's
wasn't
actually not
taking
that
a
big.
sip out of there. No, it actually is. I think it might not look big on
I just
camera.
have really
It's
big hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. big hands means. I don't have that issue, I guess. Like, so my wife used to drink out of Nalgene's, which are super frustrating because they don't fit in any cup holder, not even that they're huge. But she has switched to, I'll say Stanley, but you guys know that we're not a name brand household because we don't spend a lot of
Yeah.
money. Stanley like containers that are made purposely to fit in a cup holder, and they always do. So I don't really have that same issue. But I get it, and I have lived it before with the Nalgene life. So I can understand the frustration, but I can't participate.
Yeah, because you have one
Do
right
you think
now.
we have do you think we have all of our microplastics in our body because of Nalgene? Because it's possible. Because there's nobody on the planet that didn't own one, and mainly because they're like, I love the whole, like, "Oh, they're unbreakable," so then everyone's like, "Okay," filled it with water, froze it, and then slammed it, Gronk spiked it out of a car going 30 miles an hour, and they're like, "See, it broke."
Let me try.
Yeah.
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 Well, like the problem with those Stanleys
Um,
too is they're made of lead, which is why they're so heavy, and eventually that lead seeps through when they get old, and then people get lead poisoning.
Yummy.
Yeah, that's why they say so insulated, because yeah, there's lead in there.
Interesting. Yeah, but David, this is my around the house water, so I don't ever have to worry about it living in a
Fair. Cup
cup
holder,
holder.
yeah.
I always just take a different cup if I'm leaving the house. On to my anything else. So today is the last day of my very extended paternity leave. So I have another kid to the Blue Bills. Um, going back to work tomorrow. For the first time in a long time, actually going back to a new job. I have left the old job, hence the extended paternity leave. Um,
Congrats.
thank you.
Let's go.
But so yesterday is kind of like a big shebang to end the paternity leave, and also it was a wrapped up in a Christmas present. We took our sons to the circus. So it was Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus at the Snow Arena in Manchester. Um, and there were like tons of really bad reviews about it, and we were like, we'll go. Like our oldest is 3 years old. Like just turned 3. Like, it's not going to be a big deal if it's awful. It was actually really good, like a very good circus. And then, so we went back and we looked at the reviews and we're like, why were they so negative? And all the reviews were because they don't like have animals like lions and elephants anymore. And I'm like, that's a good thing. Like, because it's Barnum and
Right.
Bailey's, which is like the long time circus for
Yeah.
for
Yep.
America. And so I was just like, that's who in 2026 or 2025 is leaving a bad review about the circus because they don't have like lions and lion tamers and elephants. And I guess like
Abuse the
it's not like
animals.
they're advertising it. Yeah, exactly. Abuse the animals. It's not like they're advertising lions and then not having them. It was just
Right.
insane to me. So I don't know. I guess it's not a great like kicking off conversation topic, but it was just like
So wait,
something that
you're
what
telling
really
me
grinds my gears.
there are no more bearded ladies at circuses?
Yeah, right? I mean, dude, if I had a nickel for every time I saw Karen review something on Yelp, I would have probably $1 billion. I mean, like it's one of my favorite things to do is read people's bad reviews and try to get an idea of like what's going on. But it's funny when you can really pinpoint of like, oh, this was a bad review because of the ideas and perceptions you made up in your own brain before you got there. And even when it comes to food, it was like, I didn't like the way that they blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's because the restaurant down there does that. This one doesn't do
Yeah.
that. You should have gone to that one. Like,
I
wham.
didn't like their salmon dish because I don't like fish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Oh my God. Bad reviews, man. That's so funny. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I haven't been to the circus, but I feel like that would be pretty fun. And I think I might do that now.
Yeah, highly recommend. I don't necessarily think like if we were still childless, I don't think Rachel and I would go, but like
Weird.
oh no, I mean like it was still like high flying
Oh.
trapeze, like they did like the um like one guy was freaking they were going on the circles that like go through the air that are 30 feet tall and they were jump roping on top of it. One guy actually almost fell off, like caught his foot on the jump rope and barely caught
Hell
himself.
yeah.
It was insane, like from 30 feet in the air. So like they're doing crazy stunts that are still like impressive to see as an adult. So I guess that's where I was going. We wouldn't necessarily go if we were childless, but even for us, it was still like entertaining, and we were like holding our breath sometimes. And for Sawyer, it was great. Or my son. It was great. And my other son, who was 8 months old, like he even had a blast. Like he was like fake drumming during the drumming part. So it was just like
Nice.
it was good fun. Like I'd highly recommend it for people with kids, even people without kids. It could be fun if you're looking into that kind of thing. But yeah, highly recommend.
Nice. Good work.
Yeah. So that'll do it for us here on Context Matters. Thanks again to Hyatt Trucks. Check us out on YouTube at Context Does Matter and Spotify and wherever else you can get your podcasts at the Context Matters Podcast. Also follow along with us on Twitter at Context M Podcast and Facebook at the Context Matters Podcast, as we will be keeping the reactions and discussion going all off season long. Reminder to email us at the Context Matters Podcast at gmail.com with your ideas, takes, and anything you want to see on the show. I'm Bill, along with David and JMO. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.